This is where the community is connected. 980 AM WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Macon and Middle Georgia. It's time for Village Talks with Tia and LJ. Join them live every Wednesday from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. right here on the Glory 107.9 FM, 980 AM WDDO. Log on to the Glory 107.9 FM on Facebook or YouTube to become a part of the conversation. Let's go live into the studio for Village Talks with Tia and LJ.
Is your child struggling with reading, writing, learning loss, and a culturally irrelevant curriculum? Do you want your child to be outstanding at reading and writing and also take pride in their culture? Then you want Reading Revolution Online. Reading Revolution Online is a web-based reading support program. We serve scholars in grades K through 8, and through our innovative approach, we help them build reading confidence and cultural identity development, equipping them for success in school and life. They learn about Black heroes and sheroes through captioned videos, reading selections, and other activities. Reading Revolution Online is an experience for the whole family. Do it for the culture. Go to readingrevolution.org and get your membership today.
Good evening, everyone. How y'all doing?
Hey.
Hey, welcome to Village Talks. We are Macon and Middle Georgia's freshest radio show and Godcast, bringing you conversations centered around culture and community from right here in the 478 and beyond. I am your co-host, LJ, and to the immediate left of me is the absolutely gorgeous, intelligent, just outstanding, phenomenal, would that be? Just all around wonderful human being, spiritually led and guided.
Tia, peace and blessings, good people. How y'all doing out there?
Yeah. Today's is a good day as always. We're on every single Wednesday right here. Let me reiterate this for everyone who follows us, or maybe this might be your first time as a listener. We come on every single Wednesday right here on the Glory WDDO 107.9 FM and 980 AM. For those of you who are with us on the internet, on the live stream, on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, we are on the radio. I'm making the middle Georgia, right? So if you just so happen to not be at, to your smartphone or your tablet or computer or whatever it is that you're listening on, you always can listen to us on the radio, and vice versa. If you're listening to us on the radio, you can always join this conversation on the live stream, so you can look at us. You don't have to just listen. We have a podcast where you can view it, and it's videoed and stuff, right? So you can definitely check in with us either way, and also go back and watch the replays of all of our previous episodes. When this one is actually episode, what is it, 41?
41. We're on episode 41, guys.
And it's a whole blessing out here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we appreciate everyone that's been supporting us, because we've been getting a whole lot of support, and we appreciate it. Everywhere T and I go, we get people to say, "Man, I listen to the show," and it's really surprising sometimes. Even know that certain people are listening, because they're not even really checking in with us, but they listen.
Yeah.
All right. So, but we need y'all to check in.
Right. we love the ones who might not necessarily check in, but for all of you who do, feel free to join us in the chat. Facebook is up and live streaming. Y'all know we've been having some issues the last couple of weeks, but we are anticipating a clear streaming service going this evening. And feel free to give us a call in 478-250-1444.
That's right.
Yeah, and I want to just thank our sponsors.
Yes.
So we have Habersham Records. That's Miss Pat Malone, and that's LJ's mama.
That's right.
T-Car's godmama.
Grandmama.
What I say?
God.
Oh, grandmama. I'm so sorry. Okay, we got T-Car's godmama in the back on daycare duty. So we appreciate our good sis Zakia Muhammad back there.
And T-Car's great uncle in here too now.
Yes,
my mama's brother.
Uncle is in the building, y'all. Mr. Alex Habersham.
That's our future guest for today, by the way.
Yes, if that wasn't, if y'all couldn't put that together. And then we also want to thank Assembly Brothers, Sherman Kind. Thank you so much for sponsoring Homeland Village Cultural Center. Y'all know we just had Abijah on the show last week. So if you haven't visited Homeland Village, be sure to come on over to Napier Avenue, check out Homeland Village Cultural Center. And then we also want to give a shout out to Ed Foster Edwards Foster, who is running for Commissioner of District 5, y'all. And that election is coming up soon in March. So y'all be sure to look out for what Ed has going on. If you are in District 5, be sure to get out and vote.
Right. And Assembly Brothers. Shout out to Assembly. You did shout out to Assembly Brothers?
Did.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry.
We can repeat it though, in case y'all didn't hear it.
Assembly Brothers, he's been rocking with us since the beginning. So, we got to shout out our sponsors. We can do this without a check, y'all. This costs. If y'all didn't know, radio is not free.
Right.
You know what I mean?
If you want to be a sponsor, y'all be sure to check us out on our Village Talks Facebook page. Send us a message.
Absolutely. All right. So what's up? What's going on in the good news? What we got going on in our beautiful city?
So it's a lot going on today. Actually, Kamala Harris, there's a meet and greet happening at Macon City Auditorium. So the pre-show check-in started at 4:30, but she will be there approximately 7 p.m. So you all want to make sure you get out for that. This is an add-on meet and greet opportunity that includes a photo op, a signed copy of 107 Days, VIP entrance access, and commemorative keepsake. So please note that this is a pre-show event and does not include admission to the main show. So that's just for the 4:30 pre-show, and the main show starts at 7 p.m. for all those who aren't there or who want to attend. Also happening today, this evening, Black History Month performance, Georgia on My Mind, at the historic Douglas Theater. So this is hosted by Miller Fine Arts Magnet Middle School, and it's a powerful performance that celebrates the brilliance and legacy of Georgia grown historians, leaders, and change makers. Expect music, movement, and spoken word from our young people, education, culture, and pride all in one evening. This will be taking place at 6:30 p.m. So directly following the show. And again, it'll be at the historic Douglas Theater happening today. We also have the father-daughter dance that'll be happening at LH Williams Recreation Center. This will be taking place this coming Friday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Fathers and daughters are welcome to come out and make a lasting memory together. This event is free to the community. Just make sure both participants are registered through the CivRec link. And it's a beautiful opportunity for intentional time and connection. Also happening actually on Saturday, February 21st, there will be a book signing and lecture with Dr. Chike Akua at Homeland Village Cultural Center. Dr. Chike Akua will be sharing insights and signing books. I believe he'll be sharing insights into his new book, The African Origins of Our Faith. This event is free and open to the public. For more information, you can call 478-256-1166. If you are interested in African Center education and scholarship, this is one to attend. And then finally, last but certainly not least, is the Black Family Reunion. This event will be taking place on the last Saturday in February, on February 28th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Carolyn Creighton Park, formerly Central City Park. It's a full day celebrating unity among Black families. Expect live music, spades and dominoes tournaments, a chess tournament, team games, vendor markets, food vendors, and family photos. No alcohol or drugs are allowed. You can bring your grill if you so choose, and security will be enforced. And so positive vibes only. Call 478-978-5865 to register as a vendor or for more information. And that is what's happening Macon in Middle Georgia.
Yeah, good stuff going on.
There's a lot of good stuff happening this month.
Yes, a lot of good stuff. Yeah, so we try not to overload ourselves with negative. It's so much. People get paid off of negative programming, negative ads, negative stories. You know what I mean? And it can drain your energy. You know what I mean? So it's good that we can balance ourselves out, enrich ourselves with positive news. We can find out what's going on positively and make it in Middle Georgia. We'll make sure we attend those things, we support those things, and look for those things, right?
Absolutely.
So be proactive in finding things that are happening positive. Because making, sometimes we get a bad rap, a bad narrative that's painted a lot of times on what's happening. And I know we got to keep it real now. We are a show about keeping it real now. We're gonna definitely let y'all know, if there are root causes to issues or there's different data or things like that we need to be paying attention to, so we know how to fix these issues. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of amazing things happening. So with that, our theme, it's our Black History Month series.
Yes.
This month, and there have been a lot of amazing achievements that have happened across the world, of course, by Black folks since the beginning of time by Black folks, because the beginning of time began with Black folks.
That's right.
And that's not an opinion; that's an actual fact.
That's correct. Factual.
But here in Macon, Georgia, we've had a lot of incredible history as well. I've been heard stating on this particular show of Village Talks that I think, and I've heard other folks say that Macon, Middle Georgia, specifically Macon, Georgia, pound for pound as a city, by land mass and by population, has the richest Black history in the United States of America.
Yes.
And I believe that. I mean, across the board. You talk about Indian Mounds, you start talking about the home of rock and roll, and and soul. A little bit with someone who's he's Black history. As a matter of fact, yeah. And we're gonna be introducing him shortly, and he has I ain't gonna talk too much about what he's doing, because we're gonna say that from the interview, but we definitely have Black history in the building today.
That's right.
With us. And he just so happens to be my uncle.
That's right.
He's blood.
Yes.
So we appreciate him, and that person will be coming on. We'll introduce him in a few minutes. But before we get into that, with our special featured guest, start talking about this Black history. Do you have our accountability check question to engage our listeners with?
I do have the accountability check question. So today our accountability check question is, how does Black business help the Black community? How does Black business help the Black community? So we want to hear from our village. if you are able, how does Black business help the Black community? You can give us a call in 478-250-1444, or you can put your information or your answer to the accountability check in the chat. So we have D. Bryant who says, hi, my Facebook stream is not working. Okay, so we can check into that. Hopefully our engineer Tony is looking into that, making sure that everything is everything on our Facebook live stream. If you are joining us on the radio, feel free to give us a call in 478-250-1444, or on our YouTube. Feel free to answer in the chat. But again, that accountability check question is, how does Black business help the Black community? LJ, did you want to lead off with your thoughts on our accountability check question?
Yeah. I answer that. Yeah, for sure. Also, if you're on the radio, don't forget you also can go to our YouTube live stream link. That is for our folks that are on Facebook as well. You know, you always can go to YouTube, just in case we're having issues with Facebook and stuff, right? All right, and to answer that question, in regards to how does Black business help the Black community? For one, you know, I grew up in a Black business around entrepreneurs in my family. And you know, I've been taught from a young age on how specifically Black business is being critical and essential to us as a people. Because even when you look at a lot of the history uh, of making, where you know, almost 100 years ago, we had Black banks, Black grocery stores. We had so many different things that we had to allow us to be sustainable, and self-sustaining, you know, in our Black communities. And it allows us to have a inside-out approach, and where we don't necessarily have to beg or ask for handouts, or you know, have to depend on others, you know, for our survival and for our ability to thrive. So I think it's even more important now and today, where you know there are certain you know, certain programming, and I don't even want to say powers that be because they weak, you know, to me, you know, as far as those that are trying to you know, erase Black history or erase our ability to even identify with one another as being Black. But I think there's a collective uh responsibility that becomes clear when we start understanding and seeing how we support one another economically. When we're able to support each other on the level of being able just to live, to be able to eat, to be able to, you know, for schooling, for, you know, any and every single basic need that we need, and we're able to provide that as a community within ourselves, like there's power in that. And, you know, you don't have to be reminded of how that affects your life. You know, you wake up every day knowing, okay, I can depend on my own sisters and brothers and my community for all of my needs, and there's power in that. So, you know, you know, it's harder for you to get tricked or fooled into thinking that, you know, we're not together. Or even when we start talking about the violence, the different issues that we face in our community, you know, we start getting away from that, this selfish or individualistic mindset, when we start supporting ourselves through Black business. So, you know, I think there's a collective, you know, mindset that comes into play. I think there's just a individualistic power that we gain from that, knowing that we can depend on one another and ourselves. You know, and it allows us to have the confidence to do anything. I feel build up our own communities. You know, buy our own, you know, spaces and treat them correctly and well, and you know, we can thrive. And majority of Black city like Macon, you know, if we start really supporting Black business and support one another, know the power of that, man. The sky the limit. So yeah, I think there's extreme power in that.
Absolutely. I'd agree. I have to say that, you know, just to add on to that, you know, is um, making sure our businesses are sustainable, that there is like a succession plan where we are not just, you know, hoarding information or hoarding resources. We are actually thinking of the collective, sharing that information, you know, making sure that the next generation is able to sustain what we have built so that a legacy doesn't end, you know, here. So I think that we have to make sure that there is collective empowerment. Yes, as individuals, we need to, you know, we can do for ourselves, but collectively, you know, there's greater strength in those numbers, and we just have to make sure that that we are doing what we need to do to build unity, and that whether it's economic, whether it's financial, well, economic, whether it's, food source, whether, whatever it may be, educational, whatever it is, we have to understand that we have to work together in order for us to get out of these, break through some of the barriers that have been placed in front of us, whether systemically or just structurally. All of those things, we need to make sure that we're working together so that way we can create a better future, because we do have a lot of negativity. There is a lot of mess that happens in our specific communities, but there's also some great things. We have great people. Our youth, they're doing phenomenal things. So yeah, we just have to work together, work hard, and do what we need to do for the next generation to strive, and that includes our history and knowing our history, knowing our culture, knowing who we are,
that's
and
essential.
understanding, that connection to anything that we do.
Yeah, that's essential. Sankofa. Go back and get it.
That's right.
All right. So with that being said, all right, we're about to get into our this is his word too, y'all. And if you speak to me, if I see you somewhere and you ask me how I'm doing, and if I say outstanding, or if I say phenomenal, I ain't gonna tell you that's not original. That came from that came from my uncle, and I took it from him. Yeah, I took it. They got passed on generationally. That's why this is Black History Month, right? So that's how these things get passed on to the next generation. But yes, we have a phenomenal and outstanding, an amazing guest on with us right now, who we're introducing. He is the publisher of the Making Middle Georgia Black Pages. He's the founder of the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses. He's started many businesses, been the chairman of the Cherry Blossom, the first Black tax commissioner in Making Middle Georgia, and so many other things. But more importantly, he's my uncle, y'all. but nah, seriously, we like to welcome on our special guest today, Mr. Alex Habersham.
Woo-woo. Thank you so much for joining us, Uncle AC. That's what I like to call him, Uncle AC.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I want to come out of the chute congratulating. You all are in line for a lot of congratulations, particularly for my great niece.
That's right.
With her pretty self. She's just beautiful, and it was my first opportunity to put my eyes on her, and she is something else. She even smiled at me, so I like that. I got to leave her something.
Well, you already did.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I want to congratulate you all for this phenomenal show. Without being asked, media is very important because information is important. And in this particular society, accurate and profound and deep and educational information is more important than ever, as evidenced by what you just said as it relates to efforts to erase our history. Right. So it's incumbent upon, media, Black media, and you've got a lot of, different people like Don Lemon and Roland Martin and other people who understand the importance of imparting good, accurate information. And we have to be careful, and we have to be intentional about what we receive over the airways. And then when you have somebody like Village Talks, that you can be certain that's going to impart, that's not fake news. Fake news is it's real out there. Right. So we have to examine what we hear and what we see to make sure that it's accurate. So congratulations, both Tia and LJ, for such a phenomenal show in Village Talk. And that's why you got so much support, because you bring it the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That.
Yeah, I had no choice. Came up around somebody like yourself. Yes, sir. We appreciate that. And for those of who may not know you, I don't know where they at, where they been.
Right.
But there are certain folks, right? There are certain people. We never known to everybody. But who is Alex C. Habersham, beyond the title and founder and publisher of Making the Middle Georgia Black Pages?
Well, I'm just a young boy from Tyndall Heights, from public housing. I'm proud of that because I think that shows that you can come up, and then it was not a difficult situation. Matter of fact, LJ, when I grew up, I didn't know that the project was supposed to be the ghetto because
Oh, wow.
we ate and we had good family relations and we had good spiritual training. But
Right.
I'm from Tennille Heights. Went to Ballard Hudson High School. Left Ballard Hudson and went to Savannah State College and graduated Savannah State. Taught school in Savannah for about 2 or 3 years. Then my principal sent for me, Mr. R.J. Martin, said, "Boy, come on back home." So he sent for me, and I started teaching at Ballard Hudson High School back in 1969, I believe, when I was 12. So don't be trying to put no numbers on it. And then, interestingly enough, that was during the time the schools were integrated. A lot of these people, and that's why history is important.
Right.
A lot of these young people don't realize that there used to be segregated schools in Bibb County. So you had black students going to one school and white students going to another school. So in 68, 69, that's when they integrated the schools. But they integrated the teachers first. So I left Ballard Hudson. Now you got to imagine this. Here's a black boy who grew up in Tennille Heights and he couldn't even walk across the campus of Mercer, let alone go over to the white schools or teach there. But with that integration of the public school system, then I became a teacher at Lanier High School. And I taught there and had the opportunity. And then I got to say, I was well received. And then one kid went and told his mama that he learned more English from me in 2 weeks than he had learned in 2 years, while he was at Lanier. And they had ROTC there. So it was a good upbringing. And I'm just, and I say that because the key to good education is good instruction.
That's right.
We need good teachers, and those of us who have talents, sometimes we need to, if we can teach, then we need to get involved in teaching. Right. Because, the teacher is important because part of teaching is motivating.
Right.
And then you got to look a certain way, you got to act a certain way, you got to have a certain degree of understanding, and you've got to have certain experience to be able to identify the students so you can motivate them. Right. Because you have to get their attention. So after teaching for about 4 or 5 years, then I decided to go into business, and that's when I started Habersham Records, and I've owned about 11 different businesses over my lifetime, some of whom was so successful, and some of them, were not successful because I was a school teacher.
Right.
I didn't have, and watch this, that's why heritage and passing it on, like Tia said, is important. Legacy is important because we got to learn to train the next generation, and we got to not be selfish as it relates to imparting our information and knowledge to the next generation. So I've had several businesses, and it will take to next week to name them all. But after starting the Habersham Records, and I'm glad to know that LJ and my sister Phyllis Malone, they are continuing that legacy, the oldest soul music neighborhood record shop in the country.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Habersham Records. So it's still in existence. And it's still, then I started the Macon Courier. A lot of people don't know that. But I used to be a newspaper publisher. I started the Macon Courier newspaper and published that for a while. And I also started Sparkle Car Wash.
Okay.
Which was a full service car wash on Hazel and Broadway. And I did that for a while, and the Habersham Florist, and so I had a training company, even a transportation company there. And then you have to be in business, and not only for yourself, but you have to be in business for the community also.
Right.
So I started a transportation company to Purdue, Habersham Transportation, wherein I was teaching at the Transitional Center, and some of the guys that were in the halfway house, needed transportation to Purdue. Purdue was going to give them a job. So I started a transportation company, Habersham Transportation, and it goes on and on.
So you saw the need, basically, and decided that you wanted to
Right.
help out the community. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Right. And real quick, you said something about making courier. You do operate and run the Making Black Pages right now, but making courier was kind of like the prerequisite to uh, the Making Black Pages, right? And from my understanding, coming up, I thought that Making Courier was the first black newspaper. I guess you correct that and told me I think it was the second
Right.
um,
Right.
black newspaper. But I mean, can you just talk about some of the people? Because I heard people like Mr. Charles Richardson. Even more recently, we had Mr. Michael Harvey talk about how he worked at the Making Courier, and that was my first job. If you didn't know, because my granddaddy, his dad, my granddaddy, Reverend Haversham, he had me out on the corner giving out and selling Making Couriers. I was 6 years old. But can you talk a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, I can. I cannot overemphasize the relevance and the importance of good information. I've been concerned about the African American community, ever since I was in high school. And I also have been concerned about having the resources and the knowledge that it takes to uplift our community. So I felt like if we could uh, impart political, educational, social, spiritual, and economic information to the community, then that would uplift the community. And we had
Right.
people like Herbert Denard and Bert Bivens and Henry Ficklin and several other people. A lot of the ministers, Reverend J.C. Hope, y'all don't even remember him. Some of them, that were a part of it because, look, media, what you see and what you hear, across the airways and what's printed, that helps to control what people think and how they act.
Absolutely.
And if we don't impart good, accurate information and motivational information to the consuming public, then that means we can get off the track quickly. Right. And people have to have the right intentions. Sometimes people are only concerned about capitalism and money.
Right.
So you got to evaluate who's saying it, what they are saying, and why they are saying it.
Absolutely.
So that's extremely important. And that's why I decided to get involved in media with the Making Courier, because I wanted accurate information. Some old lady sashay up to me now, you still got my picture from Beauty of the Week?
Oh, it was a Beauty of the Week in Making Courier?
Oh, yeah.
It was like
Lord.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Beauty of the Week. Every week we had a different Beauty of the Week, and they still coming asking me for something. I don't have them.
Oh, Lord.
If anybody out there have any old copies of the Making Courier, we didn't archive it properly. I would like to get it and put it on microfiche, so you can just let LJ know, and then he'll get it to us. So that's kind of why I started it, and then it kind of continued to the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages. Incidentally, I'm glad you asked, nephew. Right. Because we'll sell probably, let's see, you were born, but, we started the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages 35 years ago.
That's right. This is the 35th anniversary.
35th anniversary, and we're observing it. And then we're going to give everybody the opportunity to congratulate the Black Pages and Alex Haversham. You can get a little spot in the upcoming 35th anniversary publication, but I'm so proud of that. I'm happy because it's tough. And very quickly, there were about 65 Black Pages all across the country in different cities. But, it's only 2 or 3 of them left. And I know you're happy to know that the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages, 35 years later, is one of the 65 that's awesome. Still surviving.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, especially in a time like this, and I know there's some challenges, because our history is great and it's wonderful, and I know right now, it's not the easiest time. I know you've been doing this for a while, and you got a lot of respect for what you've been doing, and you do things with love, and you're very inclusive. You've had different groups. You had white folks and Asian folks and the Hispanic community. There's even been supportive of the Black Pages, as well as you being supportive of those other communities. So, like, in this current climate, what is it like, for you to be able to still navigate, this climate that we're in right now, and still producing and pushing Black business the way that you are?
Well, that's an excellent question because I have had phenomenal majority support over the years, and I think that's accomplished. Now, let me tell you, you can't get blacker than AC. Now, don't make no mistake about it. I'm black, and I know I'm black, and I'm proud of it, and everybody else knows it. But what I tell young folk, LJ and Tia,
Yes.
you got to understand how to navigate the system. And then the thing that disappoints me sometimes, slaves did a better job of navigating the system than what we are doing. And so without selling your soul to the devil, I try to use the positive approach, and I come with facts, and I know, watch this, and we ought to talk about it a little later, black spending keeps the community going.
Right.
And the people who making all that money off of us, many of them understand it, but a lot of them don't. So that's part of my argument. When you get all this support from the African American community, then you ought to buy an ad in the black pages, in
That's
the
right.
color section, not in the categorical section, because there's a categorical section only for the African American business. So, I guess it's because I have tried to carry myself in a way to be inclusive, and also to make the argument that you ought to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And then not only that, then when the opportunity presents itself for me to support somebody else, or to support another initiative, or support another ethnicity, then I do that. So I've been blessed and fortunate and honored to be able to, bridge that gap and have general community support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so moving from the black pages, because that's kind of like, like the resource guide to actually your role in creating the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses. What was the vision behind the formation of the coalition? And how did it kind of branch or, expand from the black pages for you?
Well, there's strength in unity. We've got so many resources in our community, and my nephew and I argue about it all the time because sometimes we take a different approach, and both approaches are needed. But the thing that I emphasize is that we got so much talent, we got so many resources in our community, and if we just could come together and take advantage of those resources and help each other and promote each other, then it would be wonderful. And so we started the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses because with the way the environment is, then we need to position ourselves to help each other.
Right.
So that's why we started, because we wanted to unify the business community and set some common goals and common initiatives. And we've had really phenomenal success. We were at the Capitol last week and talked to some of the legislators about what it takes for black businesses to thrive. And the other thing that's important, it ties in with the black pages. We have got to prick the conscientiousness of black consumers.
Absolutely.
So they can understand the power of the dollar and the power that we have with our income and our consuming and our spending.
Right.
The figures vary, but it's at least, watch me, $3.8 billion in Central Georgia that black folks spend every year after taxes. That's can you imagine if a certain percentage of that would come into our community? We could support our schools, support nonprofits.
Right.
And so it would make a phenomenal difference. So the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses and the Black Pages kind of combined in that effort, to promote and practice and just enhance African American businesses, and to let the black community know that when possible, now this is not saying that you ought to be stepped on,
Right.
just to do business with an African American business. But I am saying that you can go to the black pages And if you need a florist, if you need a beautician, if you need a physician, you can go to the Black Pages and find one and then call them. And if you're not happy with them, call me and then I'll deal with it. But we need to have, we need to make a conscientious effort to kind of direct more of that revenue that we're spending into our community. So that's really why I started the Black Pages, and that's really how we kind of tied it in with the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And one of the things, and I want to just go to the chat because it kind of is referencing something that you spoke on as far as the spending power. We have Progressive Rural on YouTube who says Black spending power is projected to reach nearly 1 trillion by the end of 2025. It is a critical driver for community economic empowerment, job creation, and generational wealth. They also say Progressive Rural investing in local businesses reduces reliance on outside entities, creating safer, more self-sustaining neighborhoods. That's
And
right.
then I can speak to that, LJT.
Yes, sir.
And the interesting thing is, Black businesses did better during segregation. LJ just mentioned about 100 years ago, we had banks and real estate companies and hotels and restaurants and a whole lot of things, and they did very well. Well, that shows, although they were forced to do it,
Right.
that shows, and that insurance companies, that shows that African Americans can spend money in their own community. Now they were forced to, but now we're smart enough and we know enough to, we don't have to be forced to do it. We ought to be conscientious enough to go
Right.
to the Black Pages and make an intentional effort when possible and when doable,
Absolutely.
to spend money, put some of that money back into your own community.
Absolutely. Because I think one of the things too, when we're talking about like what happened with integration, because I know even and with you saying like how teachers, Black teachers were put into white schools before the students were able to, but just that concept of and just me looking at different documentaries and things like that and saying, we wanted to eat in these spaces where we couldn't eat in. We wanted to shop in these spaces where we couldn't shop in. And it was like this feeling of having that proximity to whiteness made us feel as though we were, well off, or, we had made it in life, as opposed to, staying where we could focus on each other and continue to build our communities and to thrive in communities. So that's something to be said, especially like when we talk about like Dr. Martin Luther King. And one of the things that he said was he felt as if he put his people into a burning building when he focused so much on integration as opposed to us focusing on economics of our people and bridging that wealth gap, because that's one of the things that I feel like to this day where we are facing the most significant disparity is because that racial wealth gap is so high. And now it's not even just a necessarily racial wealth gap, they're trying to get rid of completely the middle class. So it's like you're either going to be very poor or very rich, ultimately. So we have to figure out how we as a community, as a people, not just Black people, like how can we stop these things from happening when we're understanding the importance of economics and not allowing just a small percentage of people to control everything and have all of the power.
It's kind of interesting that you would say that, Miss Tia. What's your baby's name?
T-Car.
T-Car's mama. Because today I did my Blackonomics series down on MLK with Dr. King mural.
Oh, yes.
And then in 1968, I believe it was, that's when he came and preached at New Zion Baptist Church.
Right.
12 days before he
his
assassinated.
Yes.
But what he was doing then, he was transforming, from silver, CIBIL rights to silver, SILBER rights, because he began to realize the power of the power of economic power and the power of consumerism. And so it's very, very important. And and then the other thing that really, let's see how I can say this, that burns me up we spend our money with some entities in our neighborhoods that won't buy a $5 ad for a church program. And then they roll their eyes at up and act like we obligated to spend money with them. I
Right.
think we ought to ride all the way across town to try to find somebody to spend your money with who appreciates your money
Absolutely.
and who's
Right.
going to support your community. So
Absolutely.
we need to deal with civil rights. And if I can say this, because I don't want to forget it. What's your baby name?
T-Car.
T-Card's mama. T-Card's mama. So what I'm going to do, what I'm doing with my Blackonomics series, and I'm going to, because we need people to do everything. We need people in all areas. We need Tia and LJ. We need David Lucas. You know, we need the whole community.
Right.
You know, political. We need the ministers. We need everybody to come together. And I want to, when we have time, I want to talk about the religious community, if we have the time. So it's important. It's important. It's important that we come together and it can be done. But we need to try to, whenever possible, spend our money with people who look like us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so we will have a little bit more time later, but just real briefly, if you can tell us about, briefly about the Black Economic series. I told you from the first video, when I saw you do that first video, I was like, that's it right there. I love those videos, man. And you've been going to different locations and stuff, and just dropping it. Like the young folks say, you putting us down, you putting us down, putting us on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So tell us what is it that you've been setting out to accomplish with this Black Economics series, and what is that?
Yeah, well, let me just say, they say it's dope. How about that?
Oh Lord,
It's fly.
you too much. You too much.
Yeah, it's really dope. Well, I tell you what it is. We got too much power to be as weak as we are. So what I'm doing with Black Enough, first of all, I'm trying to show that it has been done by dwelling on history some. Talk about the people who came before us, like how well we did back in the day and how well our foreparents did back in the day. And if they did well, and then we got a responsibility. Okay, let me tell you something. So what happened with integration, a lot of people who benefited from the movement moved out the neighborhood. They moved to River North and moved into other communities. And although they benefit from Dr. King and Abernathy and Lowry and all the other people who fought for us,
Right.
they started working for IBM. They reaped the benefits and moved out the neighborhood and turned their backs on Black folk, although they had benefited from the movement.
Right.
So what I'm doing with the Black Economic series, I'm using two things, LJ. What's the baby name?
T-Car.
T-Car's daddy. So what I'm doing, I'm showing the importance of the buck and the ballot. If we could generate the buck and the ballot, man, if we can vote, we got voting power that's going to waste because people don't see the need to go and register to vote.
Right.
And then they complain about what's happening to them when you got a sizable percentage of the people either voting wrong or not voting at all. And I ain't going to call no names and I ain't going
Right.
to, but y'all know what happened.
Right.
Didn't vote or voted for the wrong person, and then that's power that's going to waste.
Right.
The ballot. And then by the same time, we've already talked about all that money that we're spending. So I'm trying to educate, motivate, enhance, and influence people from a historical perspective to take that history and move it into the now, into the future. And what I try to do, LJ, is I try to emphasize to people that we got a lot of resources in our community
Right.
that if we were to utilize them, but what it takes is everybody needs to be conscientious. And then I always end my Black Economic series with don't just stand there,
Right.
do
Do
something.
something. That's right.
Don't just stand there, do something, and everybody can do something.
Absolutely. So you just got to find your space find your lane and move in it.
And sometimes you can do it quietly.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're gonna buy some gas, if you're gonna buy something, let me look see where I can spend my money with somebody who look like me.
Right.
You don't have to tell nobody, just go spend the money.
And do it.
You know, and help somebody. You know, so it's important.
Right. And I just like to say this real quick too, and I think that's why it's so important. And I'm glad that you are letting us know that we have been successful. We have, you know, us as Black folks, we do know how to work together. Even we talk about Village Talks, and one of the reasons why we, you know, use that name and, you know, we created Village Talks because, you know, we want people to know that, you know, when people think about the village, a lot of times they think about, you know, Black folks, you know, or folks being just a village. And when we say, you know, we talk about getting back to the village, right?
Yeah.
And getting back to the village means that we were doing something, you know, collectively. You know, we had unity. We knew how to work together, right? So, you know, what you're doing is important. And right now, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's being thrown out to the younger generation. You know, you talked about after integration and folks kind of left the community and they saw success in their own individualistic, you know, groups or on small little groups of cliques or whatever it is, or just as individuals. But, you know, we're being taught right now that we're not even Black or we're this or we're that, or, you know, it's so much information around, you know, with, you know, it's been spread. Misinformation has been spread to keep us from even identifying with one another as being Black. So even when you mention that about folks coming into our communities, and you know, and taking from us, and we spending our money with other communities, you know, one of the biggest challenges that we have right now, and that's why we need information like yours. We need people like yourself that's reminding us that we are, you know, who we are. You know, we do have an identity, because a lot of folks don't recognize how traumatizing and how you know, just how effective that type of programming has been, you know, in younger Black generation, and just, you know, making us think that we're not even Black no more. Or we don't even have an obligation or responsibility to our communities, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna address that for you. It's incumbent upon the senior generation, you know, and that's part of the problem, is that we need to educate young people. We need to embrace them. We need to let them know about our history, and we need to try to compromise. You know, the times change, man.
Right.
And then, so because things are different and young people don't do things the way we used to do, then, you know, we didn't do things the way
your parents did.
Our parents did.
Right.
So I think if those people 50 and over, however old they are, if they understand that they got a responsibility to the young folk, you know, I mean, you could go and volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. You could go and read at the schools. You know, you could be a part of the PTA. You could help the Boy Scouts, which is a phenomenal organization that young people can participate in. So if we could get more people, you know, engaged in relationships one way or the other, you could if you go to church, you could be a part of the youth ministry.
Absolutely.
You know, but we got a responsibility to the younger folk, and rather than blaming them, you know, then we need to try to see if we can talk with them and get with them. You know, LJ, you and I had talked about, we're going to do it before the year's over, doing a community forum, you know, where we could get young folk and senior folk and middle folk together and try to come up with a plan.
Absolutely.
Not just talk, a plan, you know, to pull us together and to advance our community and take advantage, watch me, of the buck and the ballot.
That's right.
Absolutely. And just to kind of cap that off, Progressive Real says more Black voters must take elections more seriously. Republicans have been in control of state government for nearly a quarter of a century. To build economic power, we need political leverage. Yeah, and that's why civil education, civics is so important. And I think a lot of people don't understand how policy trickles down from a federal level, from a state level, or even from a local level.
Politicians make policies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we kind of disconnect, and we're kind of taught to disconnect ourselves from politics. And I think that we have to really start focusing on how that connects to, you know, the situations and kind of the predicament we find ourselves in as a people, because if our vote wasn't so powerful, we wouldn't see things like, gerrymandering and
No doubt.
all of those type of things that are occurring to make sure that our vote isn't counted or that our vote is diluted. So,
Right. And for one, I would be remiss. We're not gonna get through this interview without me shout out my aunt Myrtle.
oh yeah,
That's not
Aunt
gonna happen.
Myrtle.
Yeah, my aunt Myrtle. She's your better half.
3/4.
So shout out to my auntie. Yeah, hopefully she's listening. But with this being Black History Month, we've been talking about Black History Month and economic responsibility. Just in a nutshell, let us know, how does economic empowerment connect to honoring Black history?
Well, it's mind blowing and it's staggering because it takes money. This is a capitalistic society. And the more money we got, the more we can hire kids, the more we can contribute to nonprofits, the more we can reduce crime. Because if kids got jobs, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The more we can help to develop and improve our community, the more we can develop education. It's about money. It's about the almighty dollar.
Right.
As my father-in-law used to say. So it's no argument. It's no argument, that economic power produces changes in almost every walk of life, even spiritually, because you can tithe more.
Right.
So it's extremely important. And the thing look, it would be one thing if we didn't have the money to spend, but it's another thing that we got the money and are not taking advantage of the kind of power we have.
Absolutely.
From an economic perspective. So it unquestionably is a vehicle that we can use to elevate and improve our own community educationally, economically, spiritually, civically, and across the board. So it's very, very important.
Yeah, and I'm just reminded of this, right? Because I hear you talk. I've been hearing you talk about for years about Black ownership, and also Black consumership, right? And how powerful both of them are. It's very important for us to be owners. It's also important for us to understand the power of our consumership, right? And I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a financial expert. He was talking to me about the tariffs. The tariffs that Trump put on,
Right.
Other folks, and he really broke down the simplicity of it for me and why that was so powerful. And he talked about how, people in Americans, we consume more than any country in the world, like hands down. Like we are the number one consumers, right? So although we might be lagging in certain industries in regards to production and being, and not necessarily producing, or depending on certain countries, I guess, to produce some certain goods, what have you, right? But they are also dependent on us for buying the goods that they produce. Right. And so even we look at it from a global standpoint of understanding the power of American consumership. And then we look at Black folks in America being the number one consumers in America.
Right.
And that just shows that there is also power and leverage in how we spend our money.
Right. Right. So there's power from the consumer perspective. Watch this. Because if people weren't consuming it, it wouldn't make any money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just that simple.
Even when you think about the Montgomery bus boycott, when Black folks band together and decided we're not taking this public transportation until y'all figure out how to get us what we need.
It doesn't matter how many chicken wings you got in the fryer.
If ain't nobody buying the chicken.
Don't nobody buying.
Right. Same thing with Target. You look at Target after they went back on their EI.
Right. So it's power in consumerism.
Absolutely.
Absolute power.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so we kind of rounding out on the last couple minutes. I know you said you wanted to speak about religion and religious institutions. So if you could briefly kind of tell us your thoughts on what you wanted to say in reference to that.
Well, a lot of people forget, but if you would look at the civil rights movement, most of the individuals were preachers.
Mhm.
Okay, so preachers and ministers played a major role
Mhm.
in our freedom. And the other thing that we need to remember is that most of those mass meetings were at churches.
Right.
You know, they had to go to the church for the mass meeting. So my point is that I want to see a regeneration of involvement on the part of ministers. Some of them are. I'm not criticizing them, but I think that we all can do more in all entities. Businesses can do more, teachers, educators,
Right.
and also ministers. You know, if we come together and then identify and utilize the resources that we have, then I think we can improve the entire community. So I want to see the churches and the ministers, you know, kind of replicate the involvement that helped to set us free.
Absolutely.
For sure. So shout out to Apostle Rozier
Yes.
and Bishop Scott on that note, because they are living examples of everything you just said.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
You know, so we definitely appreciate them. They're the owners of the station. They give back, you know, food, you know, property. I mean, you name it. You know, they create businesses and jobs. And so, and I know there are other pastors that are doing
Yeah,
the
they
same
have their
thing.
hands in the community.
Yeah, you know,
Absolutely.
It
So,
is.
but what you're saying across the board, it definitely needs to happen.
And then the other thing I want to say very quickly is that we need to keep in mind and realize the importance of land and
Yes,
real estate.
and ownership.
Right.
That's how in ownership, and that's how we build generational wealth. And we got to stop, you know, letting all this air property contribute to the gentrification. You know, so we got air property. Get together with your sisters and your brothers and whomever, and let's try to keep this property in our community.
Yes, sir.
And real quick, applying the 7 principles of Kwanzaa every day in Macon will help transform Black Macon. Absolutely. LJ, your final thoughts?
No. Final thoughts is we got to get up out of here. But we are thankful, so thankful to have you on our show
Absolutely.
today. Thank you,
so
and,
much,
and,
Uncle
and thank you
AC.
for everything you've done for our community over the years. We appreciate you, sir.
Y'all doing an outstanding, phenomenal job, and just keep it up.
That's
Thank
right,
you
right.
so
So go,
much.
make sure y'all go to www.makingblackpages.com to follow his movements and catch us right here every single Wednesday on The Glory for Village Talks.
Peace.
Peace and blessings, y'all.
You've been listening to Village Talks with Tia and LJ. Join them live every Wednesday from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. right here on the Glory 107.9 FM, 980 AM, WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Connecting the